G'day. I've queued up a video by Global Cycling Network. It has 3.4 million views and it came out in March of 2024. So more than 12 months, almost 18 months ago. It's about a bike called the Obea Diem, and it's touted as the first e-bike specifically designed for urban cycling. So let's have a look.
Bikes for city cycling come in many different guises, from simple single speeds to old school town bikes via road and gravel and mountain bikes. Anything goes, really.
And for good reason, right? Because all bikes are great.
However, it doesn't mean that some bikes aren't better suited to city riding than others. What happens when one of the leading road and mountain bike manufacturers goes all in to design the best bike they can for city cycling?
Let's pause that there. I think it's interesting that they're talking about a bike that is specifically designed for urban riding, but it's also an e-bike, as if that is something new. I'm not convinced. Let's see where this goes.
This is what you get. Now, some might say that with this bike, Orbea have really gone to town. Sorry, I'll get my Kate. Now, jokes aside, this is the Obea Diem. I have not met a more passionate bunch of people than the folks at Orbea. They pour their hearts and souls into their bikes, so I was super interested to see what they'd done here, as I think you will be too. What are the headlines? It is an e-bike built around a Shimano motor. It's got a powerful 630 watt-hour battery integrated into the frame. Integration, in fact, is the name of the game here. Lights, mudguards, rack, motor and phone mount. In fact, there are basically no exposed cables or wires. But there is even a port from which you can charge your phone as you ride, which I love. Is it the ultimate city bike?
Yes, I love the integration too. Hiding cables looks nice, it's elegant, it's sleek. They're certainly not new to do that. And in fact, the trend has been much better frames that are built to encase batteries and encase the motors and hide them really well. And that's been a trend for the last 5 years. They have taken a few steps further forward with this. The lights integrated into the rear rack and the nice mount for the phone. I think they've done a good job keeping it nice and sleek. Agreed. Once again, the number of times people talk about having a USB charger as an important feature. It literally is a 20-cent component, and it's been done for 10 to 15 years on e-bikes, so nothing really new or exciting there.
E-bike? Hit the like button if you agree and get involved in the comments while I tell you a little bit more about it.
Yes. I don't want to dive into all the techie details without first acknowledging some of the simpler but equally important aspects. I'm going to start with the strikingly obvious one, the frame.
This unconventional looking bit here, Orbea have called Diamond Glide. And actually it's something that they've patented because they say it allows the frame to better absorb bumps without needing to resort to suspension, which is something else you would need to maintain. Now, they've also designed the frame to be confidence inspiring. So it's still nippy around town, but it's a very stable bike. And this low slung top tube here allows you to get on and off really easily. You can even lower the saddle at the drop of a button for when you're stopped at traffic lights or a junction or something. Or, dare I say actually, ideal for sharing this bike with someone else of a different height.
Now, what he's talking about now is what we would call a dropper post or a dropper bike seat post. I bought a regular mountain bike about 7 or 8 years ago, and that was part of that. It's not a new feature. In fact, you can go and buy dropper posts and install them, and it really is just a case of pushing a button to go down and then taking your weight off and pushing the button again to come back up. Look, I like it, but how innovative is it to add a feature that's already out there?
It's also got these big, wide, super puncture-resistant tyres, powerful disc brakes, but yet, in spite of all the tech on it, it's still pretty lightweight. There are 3 models.
Yeah, okay, so there again, we're talking about having decent brakes. I mean, what bike shouldn't have brakes that stop when you pull on them? And this, I would say the standard now is hydraulic discs, so they've got that. I'm not seeing anything particularly innovative here. and certainly it's easy to do a lot of this stuff.
In the range, the DM10, the 20 and the 30. This one is the range-topping 10, which has all the trimmings. Now, as I mentioned at the start, the bikes have Shimano motors. This top-of-the-range DM10 has the EP8 model. It can put out a whopping 85 Newton meters of torque. Which means what? Exactly. Well, in reality, you could pull away from stationary on the steepest of climbs, heavily laden with goodness knows what, even towing a trailer if you felt like it. The battery is integrated into the down tube, safely secured away, and you can charge it through this little port here. There's no dedicated Shimano display on your handlebars. Instead, your controls are at your fingertips. Or thumb tips, I should say, here. Now, you can scroll up or down through the 3 power modes, and a little LED light there lets you know which one you're in, and another LED light shows your battery status. Now, if you want more information from the motor, there is an app that means you can connect your phone up to it. The reality is that not many people, I think, will feel the need to modify the way the motor works, but it's cool because it does keep a track of how far you've ridden in total on the bike. And the other cool thing is the fact that you can mount your phone to the bike here. There's a dedicated phone case and it allows you to clip it onto the handlebars up there. So you could...
Yeah, cool. I like that. And the elegance of having a bike that just really runs with the press of a few buttons is nice. And I actually agree with the idea of having an app so that you've got the option to sort of have that extra information if you want it, and perhaps integrate it with other apps for tracking your mileage and so on and so on. How do I use a bike? I have a display. I like having a display because I'm often trying to get more range out of my rides, and so I'm looking at speed versus power consumption, and then I also like to know how far I've been. But I don't think everybody really cares too much about that. So I think that the balance is right there.
You could use it potentially as a sat-nav or something like that. And Orbea also point out that so many smartphones now are so big you can't really pedal very comfortably with it in your pocket, so better to put it up there. Now, while we're at the handlebars, you might notice that there's something missing from up here, and that is any kind of gear shifter. It's not because the bike has no gears, but instead because the gears come from a company called Enviolo, and there's no shifter because they're fully automatic. The idea being that you are always in the right gear, and you don't notice as the bike shifts for you as your speed varies. Now, the Enviolo...
Yeah, interesting. Enviolo had a bike with one of those when it was named something else, and I liked it. It was a continuously variable, an infinitely variable transmission, and in this implementation, they've got it set in a sort of auto mode. It does take away some of the riding experience, which I feel I like, that the chain drive feels more positive to me. This particular bike has a carbon belt drive, so it's a single speed from the motor to the rear wheel, and then the continuously variable hub takes over from there. The problems that I had with that system were cables and usage. I think they've solved that in quite an elegant solution, and I've often been a fan of a carbon belt drive and an infinitely variable drive like this. So I like the matching of that in this application.
It also has an app that allows you to customize, basically to set how fast you want your pedals to turn before you're shifting gears.
Now that's something to get used to and to consider. When you use a system like that, you're always pedaling at the same rate. I don't know that I like that riding experience. I think sometimes I want to pedal faster and slower, and sometimes I want to stand up on my pedals and pedal more slowly. You know, all those types of things to me create a better riding experience, but maybe that's just because of years and years of riding that way. This is a new way of riding, and maybe it works. It's not been for me yet, but I don't have a lot of time with that type of bike.
Perhaps the biggest strength of this system, other than the incredible ease of use, is the fact that there are no exposed moving parts. It even runs off a belt drive, so there's no rusty or oily chains to worry about either.
Agreed.
It should give you basically a maintenance-free life.
We did that with
And in
Skillian
fact,
some
that
years
is one
ago.
of the striking things about this bike, is that all of the inner workings are hidden and concealed or integrated. So whilst it is very clearly still a bike, it actually kind of reminds me more about the same sort of experience as you get driving a modern car. A good example of that is the lights, which are again all integrated. It's got daytime running lights, front and rear. The rear even indicates when you're slowing down. And then there's an additional front headlight as well that switches on as it's getting dark automatically. And it all runs off the one central battery. So there are fewer things to worry about charging and fewer things that can be taken off your bike when you don't want them to.
I agree with that. I think for the idea of commuting, for simplicity and having a bike which is just ready to go, I think this is great. Everything's nicely integrated, it's fully automatic, and you're using it for transport to get around town. It's not so much about going on a performance ride or a fitness ride where you might be more engaged with the tech and the other features of the bike. But he does say everything's fully integrated, but then he shows some footage of cables actually running. So, I think I think I'll go with the fully integrated too.
Now, whilst we're talking security, Orbea have also designed a place on this bike specifically to house an AirTag or something similar. I'm not going to tell you exactly where on the bike it is, not that it would be very quick or easy to get to anyway, but still, I think that's really cool. Now, what else makes this a mega...
Yeah, AirTags, you can go and buy an AirTag and install it in a unique place as well. And look, you think that it's going to be secret for very long? No, I don't think so.
City bike? Sometimes it's the simple things, right? Like the kickstand or the mud guards, which are pretty much essential for city cycling in order to keep your clothes from getting mucky, even when it's not raining.
Nice job.
The rear rack here will take 20 kilos of weight. The front rack that I've got on this DM10 will take another 10 kilos of storage. And if you need more, then the bike is compatible with most dedicated bike trailers, allowing you to tow either more stuff or your kids. Now, the last thing I mentioned at the start, this dedicated USB-C charging port up
Here we
here.
go. Oh, it's
so you
USB-C.
can charge your phone if you're using it as sat-nav, whilst also playing some banging tunes.
What's he doing? Playing tunes on... I don't get it. Okay. Just a note on using earphones. Earphones makes it a great experience. I don't tend to use them, and they're not really pro safety because you can't hear what's coming up behind you. But I certainly understand many people want to wear earphones and listen to music while they're riding. Just pointing out that it doesn't help you when it comes to safety.
There are, as I've mentioned, 3 models to this bike. This, the all-singing, all-dancing DM10. Then the DM20, which loses the automatic gears, swapping them instead for a 5-speed Shimano Nexus setup, but retaining the belt drive. And then there's the 30.
So if you didn't catch that, that's an internal hub gear system, which Shimano have. I do quite like that option out of the 3. It's fully enclosed, very robust and reliable, gives you the chance to choose the gears that you want to, rather than handing it over to that infinitely variable drive.
30, which has more conventional Shimano Q's gears with a normal chain, and that also has a slightly smaller battery, which is a bit lighter, but also gives you a little bit less range. Enough still to get you over 100 Ks on a charge, although that, of course, depends on how hard you are using the bike and draining the battery. There is, of course, a premium on this bike over a simple single speed, but I don't think this is being designed to replace a simple single speed. I think this is designed to work in tandem with other city bikes to provide an amazing option for those with the means. Yes, I think experienced cyclists would love this bike, but I think it's also been designed to tempt non-cyclists back onto 2 wheels and out of their cars. If you tell someone that doesn't normally cycle that they don't have to worry about changing gears, going up hills, punctures, oily chains and getting on and off, and their faces absolutely light up.
Yeah, I agree with
The fact
that.
that it looks super cool too is an absolute bonus.
It's always hard for us people that ride a lot to get into the headspace of someone that doesn't, and it's surprising the friction that comes up with oh, how do I change the gears, and how do I do this, how do I do that. In fact, I remember putting someone on one of my bikes. They took off down the road and they said, how do I stop,
Now, I'll be super interested to hear your thoughts on this bike, so get involved in the comment section. Is it a high-tech super commuter? I'll be replying to you, so get involved. Huge thanks to Orbea for loaning us this bike.
All right, cool. So I think in summary, I like the bike. I thought it was great. Is it the first ever bike designed for the urban commuter? That's an e-bike? No, I don't think it's the first. It's just another bike it's done a good job of integrating a lot of cool features. The thing that stands out is just how easy you can get on and ride, and I think they've done a great job with that. I, of course, would like to see Hawkeye integrated into that, and I could see a place for it right at the back of that rack there, because then you would have not only power for the Hawkeye, you would have your AI capabilities for your situational awareness right in front of you. You've got the little speaker there for hearing what's coming up behind you as well. The lights, the camera recording. Hawkeye would be a fabulous integration into that. So I hope that helps, and thanks for watching.